Welcome to the Customs Show with Arne Milken and Graham Austin.
Yes, welcome from my side too. Here at the Customs Show, we want to shine a light on everything that's exciting about customs from the political perspective as well as the practical perspective. Because later in the show, there'll be Arnie's Customs Corner where we'll get to answer the questions you asked us. So I'll see you later in the show. Graham?
Thanks, Arnie. And to start us off, we have an amazing guest with Arancha Gonzalez Laya, who chaired the Commission's Wise Persons Group, looking at the future of the Customs Union. Arancha will be here to give us some insight into the dynamics of that group and what they actually looked at and how they arrived at their 10 key recommendations. But before we do, let's just take a look back at the events that led the European Union to where we are today in terms of customs. Customs is a true bottom line for business the world over. European businesses are inherently dependent on trade that is as frictionless as possible to maintain jobs and create wealth for the EU in this challenging economic environment. For all businesses to compete at their best, regardless of size or profile, they need predictability and legal certainty when it comes to import, export and transporting goods through supply chains. Before the early 1990s, the notion of import and export between member states still existed. Then European Community members coordinated customs rules through a series of regime-based directives. These directives also had a number of application rules replicated each time, but not always identically. That all changed in 1993 and the creation of the single market. The Community Customs Code entered into force on the 1st of January 1993. It codified all the previous directives with vertical and horizontal rules, but some elements of the code were already going past their best by date. That was because the first customs code did not fully address the impact of emerging new industries, new control techniques, or embrace the growing possibilities for doing business electronically. So by the end of the 1990s, a major modernisation was on the cards. That modernisation was delivered with the Union Customs Code in 2015 and its delegated and implementing acts in 2016. Yet despite a significant modernisation process, including the introduction of e-customs, more needed to be done. Amongst other things, customs was increasingly responsible for a burgeoning range of non-fiscal tasks, such as product safety and environmental compliance. Not only that, but a perfect storm was brewing economically, with global supply chains disrupted by the COVID pandemic, Brexit, inflation, and the impact of the Ukraine conflict on energy and food supply. All these factors combined to put unprecedented pressure on customs authorities and traders alike. In response, the European Commission published the Customs Action Plan in 2020 and initiated a review of the Union Customs Code in 2021. To support the process, Paolo Gentiloni, the Commissioner for the Economy, invited the formation of a Wise Persons Group chaired by ex-Spanish Foreign Minister Arancha Gonzalez Laya. Their remit was to provide some fresh insight into the challenges facing the Customs Union and to offer innovative thoughts. This work was achieved with the publication of their report in March 2022. It contained a package of 10 key recommendations. Officials are now considering those recommendations, and to help them shape proposals for legislation, a second open consultation took place during the summer of 2022.
Wow, that was a great introduction. Thank you very much for this, Graham. You did a really great job there.
Pleasure.
And now the big moment has arrived. We are beyond excited. We're honored. And it is such a privilege to speak to the chairperson of the WISE Group. That is not something that happens every day. And it is called, of course, Arancha Gonzalez Laya. It is a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the Customs Show. Now, we have an incredible 10 questions. So we've got to go because time's precious, but we are excited about this report that you have produced. But before we do that, we want to know a little bit more about you. So Arancha, if you don't mind, who are you?
Well, I'm a professional with over 25 years of experience in European Union matters, in multilateral trade, in international development cooperation at the national level, and now in academia. So I guess I'm one of these wonks that makes good knowledge of foreign policy with an even deeper knowledge of trade and international economics, and very enthusiastic about the European Union being capable of continuing to use its trade might in the most intelligent way.
So that's already the first very important statement, right? To support the European Union, support its development, economic, as well as socially and economically. Now, we have all seen and read with great interest your report, the Wise Persons Report. What were the criteria for being chosen as a wise person? And if you allow one sneaky question, a little bit cheeky, what makes you a wise person?
Well, the decision to set up a Wise Persons Group was taken together by the European Commission and the member states. And member states agreed to send names to the European Commission to put this group forward. They were not meant to represent countries, because the main point was that the group would be independent and give an impartial view. But obviously, what was necessary and what was achieved is diversity. So that's what this group has, is diversity, equal number of men and women, diversity from the country where they come from, diversity in terms of professional experience. Some come with a background on customs, some on fiscal issues, some on international trade, some on sustainability, all different dimensions of this reality we need to deal with when we discuss customs. And diversity also in that we have public and private sector representation. So it was meant to be a diverse group of independent people that could give their best advice in the form of a report to the European Commission and the EU member states.
Great. Yes, that makes sense. When you say it like that, it makes perfect sense. It's great. So thank you very much for your hard work, all of you collectively, on this, because what you've produced is an amazing report. Even the summary is so succinct that everybody can read it and everybody can hopefully agree with it. So we've seen the report. We think it's a great read. Tell us, what were the terms of remit of the report? Was it what was the mission of the report? What were you tasked to do? And also, what were the limitations you had to work with?
So the message was come with good ideas and come with ideas that maybe you can think of because you act independently of member states and interests. So give us your best advice. Make sure that you are innovative, creative. Number two, we were giving a very clear mandate in the form of give us your best advice to address 4 big changes that customs are facing. First, a big change in international trade. There is more and more electronic trade, e-commerce. Second, the risks and the management of the risks at the border are changing. So it's not only the classic ones we know, the risks to the European Treasury, so fiscal issues, revenue collection, but now more and more we've got risks that are linked to citizen demands, sustainability, safety, security, respect for human rights or labor rights that need to also be checked at the border. And more also geopolitical risks. Third, we were told, make sure that you give us good ideas on the governance. How should the EU organize itself better to face the different dimensions of values that Europeans cherish that need to be in a way protected and controlled and checked at the border to provide for real safe borders. So this is the mandate we got, but with a big incentive to be creative, which is what we've tried to do in our report.
Yes, and you did very well. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. We wonder, in preparation of this, if you would take us inside the discussion a little bit, because we saw the end product, but these are not controversial matters, but they're like Europe, united in diversity. You ask someone else, and there is a different opinion. And you at the helm, bringing everything together. I understand why a diplomat was tasked to do that. It must not have been so easy. So we were wondering in preparation of this, if you take us inside the discussion just a little bit, how was the dynamic? What subjects were more easy to discuss? What subjects did you feel were more controversial, and why?
So first, I would say that there was a great spirit of collaboration and cooperation among all the members of the Wise Persons Group. And it was really a pleasure to have the opportunity to serve together with them for improving the manner in which the EU customs function. So great the spirit of let's do this together, we are in this together. Second, we were very clear from the beginning that we were not to reinvent the wheel, but we had to come up with innovative ideas. And in order to do that, we thought that the best thing would be to listen. So we spent more than 50 hours listening to the actors on the ground. We listen to the private sector, to businesses, to big businesses, but also to small and medium enterprises, which at the end of the day make up for more than 90% of businesses in Europe. We listened to EU member states in different parts of the EU geography, because they face different challenges. We face the operators, the customs operators, the airport operators, the harbors, to understand the different dimensions of this reality depending on the point of entry into the European Union. We listened to consumers, because at the end of the day, they are a very important voice. We listen to every department in the European Commission that is tasked with producing legislation that at the end of the day needs to be controlled at the border. We listen to European actors, and we also listen to international partners because at the end of the day, customs are the point where the external connects with the internal, where international trades connects with the single market. So we listened, and this is the most valuable part of this report, is that this is a summary, a concise, with a selection from the members of the group of the solutions that we think work best and need to be front-loaded, that come from listening to actors on the ground. And I think the big value is that when we put our report on the table, we are in a way telling the Commission and the member states, this is how you can improve the way customs work, because this is what actors have told us they require for it to work better.
Great. And what I get from this is the collaboration was not only within the group, but it was across Europe, across sectors, across everything. You worked with so many stakeholders. I imagined you guys would meet in a room, just hammer this out, and that would be the report. But no, you reached out to so many actors. And as you say, customs is complex, and customs involves different, partly competing priorities. Security, administration, finances, and also, of course, the voice of trade. So, Graham and I have worked with trade associations for most of our professional careers. So we are very keen on that aspect. So if you don't mind, we're going to have a few questions on the trade facilitation part. And with the WTO background that you have, you are all over this. So tell us a little bit about trade facilitation. And the question, I guess, what was the balance? How did you set your priorities? You said the member state gave you some remit, but then in the discussion, maybe other issues popped up. So how did you set your priorities? What made e-commerce go top? And of course, what was the balance between trade facilitation on one hand and enforcement and, I guess, customs control on the other?
You are absolutely right that this report is about finding a point of balance. And there are three parts to this balance that is important to keep in mind. First, we need to ensure that our borders are secure, they are safe, not only because we want to protect our citizens from unwanted imports, but also because we want to protect producers in Europe from unfair competition imported from abroad. So when the EU says chemical products sold in the European market need to be in this manner, and these are safe and these are unsafe, we need to make sure that the products that are produced in the EU or imported from a third country respond to exactly the same rules. So first is about a balance with security and safety, very importantly on one part. Second is about facilitating businesses and the way businesses operate. Not only those that import final products, but also those that import entrants, components to which the EU business gives value added. Facilitation is important because facilitation is the difference between small traders being part of the competitive economy, or they just simply not being in a position to trade because it's too costly. So the second dimension was about facilitating the manner in which operators go through borders. And the third consideration is also fiscal consideration. Let's not forget that the customs are also the guarantors of revenue collection in the form of customs duties that are still levied on products coming from third countries, as well as on VAT to be paid when importing into the European Union. So the report is about trying to balance these three dimensions: safety, security, trade facilitation, and protection of revenues to the European Treasury. The three are important. It's not about one being more important than other. It's about finding a point where there is a balance between the three and a trade-off that allows this point of equilibrium to be found. That's what we felt very strongly about, and what we think we've put in the proposal on the table.
Yeah, balance, as you said, balance, and you have explained it very well, I think. So, we're getting closer to the end now. So I guess, in your words, what do you think is the most important conclusions from this report?
The most important conclusion is that we have to keep modernizing and reforming the manner in which EU customs work. That the EU customs have embarked decades ago in a process of adjusting to the changing circumstances. But I guess the main message today is that circumstances have changed so much that the EU customs need to take a bit of a leap forward, maybe a bit of a bigger reform to make sure that they are ahead of the curve. And there is one element that is very important in this reform, is the ability of all customs in all EU member states, irrespective of where the goods are coming into, to protect the EU in the same manner. So making sure that the level of protection in the EU is not driven by the lowest common denominator, by the lowest link, by the weakest link at customs. Because those that want to bring in dangerous products, those that want to smuggle into the EU, including smuggling people, those that want to bend the rules, know where the weak links are. And for us, it was very important that we lift the ability of all customs in all EU member states to protect at the same level all European citizens. So this requires, and this is why there is a chapter on governance, this requires customs to relook at the manner in which they work, how much they do together versus how much each customs in each member state continues to do. It's not about creating one single customs corp in the EU, but it's about making sure that every national customs authority control and protect the border in the same manner. This was a very strong message we heard from businesses, and from consumers. So this is a very central point in the report.
Got it. Got it. And of course, that helps businesses as well, being protected from all those things that shouldn't be in the union. Great. Well, that was a really concise conclusion of the report. I think it comes out really, really great. You mentioned reform. You mentioned the need to continue to modernize. These are great big words. And now I will be a little controversial. You wrote it on paper. In German, we say Papier ist geduldig. So, all right, it's just paper, right? Now, hand on your heart. This wouldn't be the custom show if we wouldn't do a bit of controversy here. So, you know EU politicians better than myself, better than Graham. You know international trade. You've been at the WTO. Let's be honest here. How realistic do you think that the nice conclusions that you draw, the recommendations, the hard work will actually realistically result in tangible results and actually change the customs union that we see today?
I think the most convincing argument to continue to be made is that if this was necessary when we put the report out, it's even more important today, with a deterioration of the geopolitical landscape, with greater risks at the EU border, and with the necessity for all EU member states to pull up their socks and improve the manner in which customs work. So let's say that I am confident that in this area, like in so many other areas that the EU is working on, there is a desire to do better. And there is a desire for customs working together with their national authorities and working together with the European Commission and the European Parliament to get these reforms off the ground. What we've given them is an honest view of things that are doable and that would achieve a great improvement in the manner in which customs work. So, of course, we trust that they've got an interest to ensure that European borders are protected and European businesses can continue to do business with the rest of the world in an easier manner.
I know time's running out, so we're going to be very quick, but I was wondering, it sounds to me that the group should continue. I mean, you know, if you made this report a couple of months ago, the geopolitical landscape has changed, you could write yet another report or continuously update this report. So has the work actually finished, or will you reconvene? How is the stakeholder process now? Is it all closed, or shall we do this every year? How are we to understand the rebirth of the wise person group?
So first, the wise persons continue to be associated, supporting the European Commission in making the case and in debating and in doing the pedagogy that is necessary and useful and desirable from our side. And I do think that now the driving force is no longer the wise persons group, but rather the European Commission that is embarked in a dialogue with EU member states. There's been discussions, debates, public consultations. It's very important that we involve all stakeholders in this debate. They give us their best views, but the path to reform continues, and whatever is required from the Commission and or the member states, I'm sure we will be at their disposal to support them in the process.
Great, fantastic. And it shows so much that you're ready to support by coming on today. So this is great. And this brings us to the final question. You've been wonderful. So here is the final one. And of course, we expect this interview to attract a large interest, predominantly maybe from a trade association that we're connected with, but of course, a wide range of stakeholders from administrations as well. Businesses will look at this interview and say, I got the main message, but this is in a way a chance for you to also address trade companies, those customs people that don't really deal necessarily with the high politics, but they got to get goods in and goods out every day. They've got to do customs declaration, do HTS codes, HS code, commodity code, CN codes, customs value, origin, all of that good stuff. If we asked you, to these people, to the business community, what would be the last words? What would be the things that they need to know from you directly to them? You've got the last words.
So I would tell them, get engaged, get involved, push for reforms. Don't wait for the reforms to be given to you. Drive them. Tell those that are responsible for the reforms, like you told the wise persons groups, what you need. And what you said you needed was simplification, facilitation, improvement in the processes, one EU border, not 27 EU borders, and obviously a commitment to continue to protect the European citizens. Keep making the case so that you drive the reforms.
Wonderful. Look, Arancha, it's been I couldn't say anything better than this. This is fantastic. It's been such a great time to speak to you today. And we really value your time. You're so busy, but you do take the time to speak not only to politicians, but also to business representatives, members of the Trade Contact Group. And in this way, we have a dialogue. We are engaged. We are on your side and on the EU Commission side, on Europe's side, on the Parliament side, when it comes to modernization, improvement of operations, protection. Yeah, okay, there's got to be the money too. I agree. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for doing this work on behalf of, if I can say, Graham and me, but probably all members of the Trade Contact Group and businesses across Europe. Thank you for the work. And we wish you the best of luck with pushing for this reform. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Arancha. Well, that was a great interview. Some great questions there, Arne, and some great answers as well. And there's so much to unpack. I'm sure the audience will find that an incredible 15, 20 minutes. The comment towards the end about the process being ongoing, I think that's important, and that I think is something which is becoming more and more relevant now, that people are aware that you can't just finish the customs code and expect it to last in that format for 20, 30, 40 years. It has to evolve. And to me, I'd like sort of like to get an insight as to how that structure can be changed to allow it to evolve. But I think that's possibly a question or a discussion for a different day. Well, for you, Arne, you were the question master there. What were the important aspects that you took out of that?
Well, as you say, it was at the time incredibly well spent, right? What an insight! What ideas? What thought process went behind that? Understanding how it all came together to make this report. Because do you remember, I received this report almost out of the blue. It was a press release. There you go read this. And I'm like, where does this come from? I have no clue. And now we know a little bit more, don't we? And that is so important, I think. Well, the two things that I take away from it, there's more if I think about it, but the two immediate reactions are, number one, it's not all about trade facilitation. So we are often in this bubble going into the commission and saying trade facilitation, talk more, tell me how you make it easier, go IT, and this is our job in a way, I understand that, but we got to recognize the multifaceted nature of customs. And I think that came really, really well across, that although it's not directly trade facilitation, it still helps you because it protects you. Right, the IP, the fake goods that are coming in, any fake goods we don't have is good for businesses selling here. Any control that stops a bad product from entering the market will be good for business as well, because then you don't have to deal with recalls and all that good stuff. So it is not all about trade facilitation, but it is about protection, and there is a revenue aspect as well. That came out clear. Second is the belief that the level of ambition will be maintained. Arancha is very hopeful. I am a little bit more skeptical, having been in customs for 20 years and having seen how things evolve. Yes, we want to act as one, right? We want to have a single customs, single trade window environment, yes, but now make it happen, right? Now give the support that we need to do. Everybody has to play its role. Arancha's team has to create this report. The member state now must keep this level of ambition up. Despite challenge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you must invest and engage and create a system that makes it so that we act as one. We are not one, but we act as one. So when I file a customs declaration in Latvia, I can read that content in Porto, Portugal. And that makes our union clever. It's embracing this new technology, and it's making sure that we use this new technology and that we all come together and we don't get bogged down in political wrangling. So I love her ambition. I love the fact that she is motivated and keeps hammering down this message. I just hope that everyone's listening and then turning recommendations on paper into action. So that is my takeaway from the discussion, the instant reaction I have of it. I'm sure there's more to unpack, as you rightfully say, and hopefully our viewers have views as well, because I want you're watching this, to comment. So comment down below what you think are the main takeaways. Tell us what your questions would have been. What would you have asked? What are the things that matter to you? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Put that in the comments. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and follow. Share it, this report, this version, with other people.
Yeah. Let's make it interactive.
Interactive, that's the one. Sorry, Graham, I was going on there for a while.
No.
You asked, so here was the question.
No, that's right. I think that they're very good observations. And as I said, Question Master, I think it's probably time, Arne, for Arne's Question Corner.
Already? Oh dear. Well, let's go then.
This is the part of the show where Arne will answer some tricky customs questions. And we've received 3 questions, first of all, from people around the EU. And shall we have a go then, Arne? Shall we see?
Absolutely. Hit me with it.
Shall we see what your answers are? And the first one is from Margaret from Denmark. Margaret asks, what are the top 3 things you would suggest a company to look into when starting out with customs compliance?
Oh, okay. Customs compliance, right. Yeah, so Margaret, thank you very much for the question. Great to have you asking it. Quite a tricky question to start off with. It's a big field, this customs compliance. Well, if you're starting to seriously think about how to enhance your customs compliance, and the first, say, 3 steps I would take, or maybe 4. Number 1 would be, well, first of all, you got to define what customs compliance is, isn't it? And you might want to say something like, and define this for your company, for yourself, but also for your company, maybe something like customs compliance. It can refer to the variety of regulatory requirements that companies need to make in Denmark, in the EU, to meet the requirements, the laws of your internal market, but also your export market. So you might meet multiple regulations in multiple jurisdictions. And by doing the right thing every time, you can trade globally successfully. You can help your company reduce shipments delays, save you a lot of time, and of course, save you a lot of money and hustle. And you can make your customers happy by fulfilling their orders swiftly, better, and faster. So that would be 1. You kind of define customs compliance in a positive way, in a meaningful way for your company. The second step, I would say, is you give your company a mission, something the troops can rally behind, something like, our mission is to meet these regulatory requirements every time we import, export, or engage with customs authorities. That is the mantra. That is what we all rally behind. And you will do this worldwide. You will meet these obligations every time. And that would be the second part. You create this vision, this mission. And then you need to apply the customs compliance general concept to your business. So, for example, if you're in food and drink or retail, you care about export health certificates, and that could be a big compliance issue around customs. If you are in aerospace and defense, it would be dual use and export controls. If it is in creative industries, you might deal with royalties and commission. And if you're in chemicals, well, then you have CITES, and you have the chemical regulations, CITES if you deal with extinct species or endangered species. So all of that makes the customs compliance very specific. And if you have that good awareness, you can then roll out some workshops and explain the companies what compliance is, and then you're on your way to enhancing the compliance. So get a good knowledge of what compliance is, apply it to your business, set the business up with a mission statement, a vision statement, then roll out some workshops to explain everybody what compliance is. And this would be the first steps. There's lots more you then have to do, from creating import manuals and the likes of it. But for a start, let's start like this. Graham, would that be all right?
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. So, Margaret, I think there's a bit of planning involved there. But of course, if you've got some further questions, you'd like to get a bit more detail, then drop us a line and I'll be more than pleased to help you further. Thanks, Arne. Well, the second question is a technical question, and it's come to us from Jesus in Spain. He has a UK customer who wants us to trade with them under Intercom's DDP. This is what they agreed to before Brexit. Is this okay, or shall they request a change? And if so, why?
Oh dear, that is a tricky question. So we have Jesus in Spain, is that right?
Complicated. Yeah, that's right.
Jesus is in Spain and he trades with someone in the UK.
That's right.
And they're doing Incoterms DDP, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And they've always done that, and now Brexit came.
That's right.
They wonder whether they should keep it or
change. That's right. Continue or change.
Well, actually, within the European Union, this is quite frequent. You arrange DDP shipment, and then order comes in and you just deliver it wherever the customer is. That's all right. And that could be in Belgium or France, because there is a customs union. There is no border.
No.
Now, this is okay, but this method of trading does not work when you deal with a third country that the UK now is. If you're not a member of the customs union, you've got border formalities, you've got the import clearance process. And it's important for Jesus to keep in mind, of course, that under DDP, the seller, the vendor, must arrange not only transportation and delivery to a point in the UK. So, for example, say their customers were in Manchester, but then also, and that's the key thing, must arrange for the import clearance into the UK and pay import VAT and customs duty in the UK. Now, Jesus, I want to ask you, you are in Spain. Are you set up to import into the UK? Have you got access to chief? Have you got a clearance agent in the UK so you can make the import formalities? You can complete them. And I don't think you have. It's very difficult. DDP is used, and it mandates that the seller is responsible for everything, for obtaining the import license if it's required, for paying the associated taxes and duties. And these conditions on DDP make it very difficult. And if it is as complex and bureaucratic as the UK, with respect, then you're better leave that to your customer, the import clearance. So in other words, DDP, I'm afraid, most certainly has to go. You got to change that, the AP or other terms. So I'm afraid, Jesus, after Brexit, everything changed.
Sadly, Ron, that is so true. And unfortunately, people are just finding this out. But sorry that we can't give something a bit more positive, Jesus. But again, if you'd like to follow that up, then drop us a line and we'd be more than pleased to help you.
Of course.
Well, our last question is another technical question, and that's come to us from Maren in Germany. Maren asks, I've been asked to give out my company's EORI number to our UK buyer. Shall I give it to them?
Another UK question. There's a UK thing happening here.
There's a theme running through here.
Yeah. We got to look at that, I think. Maren, danke schön. Ich freue mich sehr, dass wir im Gespräch sind. Sorry, just showing off.
Yeah.
So EORI number. All right then. So EORI number. Actually, I get this a lot as well. EORI numbers. What's the hustle? You ask for EORI number here, take it, whatever. Usually, I'd say don't do that. Don't give out your EORI number. In fact, I would be very conservative about this. You should not give out your EORI number. At least ask the question, what do you need it for? You've got to remember the EORI number, as you know, because you are in the discussions in Brussels as well, was supposed to be your name, your address, a registration and identification of the economic operator trader.
Yeah.
But of course, once people get these details, or authorities, they can do a lot of things with it. And now in the UK, this has evolved. The UK number is now usually linked to your VAT number. And once you have an EORI number in the UK, well, you might use that, and the import VAT that is due might go to whoever is behind the EORI number listed on the import declaration. So if I take Graham's EORI number, my import VAT that I should pay could end up in your account just because I have an EORI number. And even worse, if I get my hands on your EORI number, Graham, I could file a customs declaration in the UK that is a legal document, remember, in your name. And you would not even know about it, and you don't even give your consent for it. You'd be surprised when HMRC or the customs authorities knock on your door and say, can I discuss this import declaration? And you will say, well, I've never lodged one. Well, it was lodged for you, and you didn't even know about it because 3 months ago, you gave someone an EORI number. So in other words, don't.
Sehr gut. I don't think you could be clearer than that. And so, Maren, I've listened to what Arne has to say. If you've got a specific situation you'd like to elaborate, then please get in touch with us. But I think they were 3 very good, somewhat tricky, I think, questions to get us going with Arne's Questions Corner. But please, Arne is the expert, and why not drop us a line with your questions, and we'll come to them in the next edition of the Customs Show. But for now, thanks ever so much, Arne.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that's the end of the show, Arne, and I think it was a really good first edition. To have the former Foreign Secretary of Spain come on a show and give us some views on the work she's been doing in relation to the massive work on the review of the Union Customs Code has got to be something very special. And I can't wait to get going with the next edition on. What about you?
Wow. Is it already time to go? I've had so much fun. I mean, how often do you get to do an interview like that? Wow. And Graham, I mean, let's be honest, the introduction that you created, I mean, honestly, that's all you, right? It is amazing. I mean, the work you've done to get this quick introduction going, fantastic. And of course, we got to thank our viewers and the people that take their time to ask us these tricky questions in the end, right? Because without interaction, this show is just you and me talking, but with people engaging and subscribing and liking and sharing and getting other people involved, you know, that is where this custom show really becomes interactive and special. So I had a blast and I love working with you. It was really great. And I hope that we get to do this again and again. So why don't we ask the audience this last thing? Guys, tell us, liked it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What can we change? What can we improve? Put that in the comments down below right now. And also tell us this. Who do you want to see on the next edition of the Custom Show? You go, and don't forget those tricky questions. Keep them coming because we love them. We get a kick out of them. So thank you once again. Graham, it was a pleasure.
It was indeed, Arne. So for now, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye, everyone. See you next time.